This is a Winston Draft that we did at Flesh and Blood Foundry in Portland. And for those of you that don't know what a Winston Draft is a format created by Richard Garfield to allow two players to draft a limited deck and play each other. And the way that works is each player gets 3 packs of cards to make a pool of roughly 45 cards each. We open them up face down and we shuffle them all together. And then we will begin to draft from that single pile of cards, taking turns. For sorcery, because some of the cards that can be inserted into the packs are double-sided foils, like you see here. What my friend and I decided to do, we decided to just take out the foils when we open the packs and just say, look, if you pull a foil, you get to keep the card. So that won't be in the draft pool. We had some conversations about kind of like value and things like that. Personally, I don't really care. I'm willing to leave it up to chance on what cards I draft and as far as value goes, but some of the players in my local group have talked about doing something like this format and having like a potential like it feels bad moment where if somebody pulls a high value card in the draft, they feel like they've missed out on that because all the cards got mixed together. So taking out the foils again is just a way that we can kind of mitigate that. There are still like a couple high value cards in non-foil that you could pull, like nothing too crazy right now. And also if you pulled a curio, that would be one of the larger hits. What Kevin suggested when we started this game was basically just if we pulled a curio, we would I think just liquidate it, sell it, and then we'd split the market cost on it. So a Winston Draft, like I said, you open up all your packs blind, you shuffle them all together into a single deck, and then you're going to create 3 draft pools on the table in front of you here into three piles. And now we're going to roll to see who gets to choose first on the draft. And I believe I get the win. Yeah, I do, with a 4. So now to start drafting, you can start looking at the piles. You look from left to right. You look at the first pile and you decide if you want that card or not. If not, you pass and you move on to the next pile. You decide if you want that card or not. And in this case, Brown Bear is a pretty decent minion on the power curve, so I decided to take that. And now that I've chosen a pile, I'm going to replenish 1 card to each pile. And now it is my friend's turn. And again, the same thing. He's going to start looking at the first pile, decide if he wants that. He's going to look at the second pile, decide if he wants that. He's going to look at the third pile and decide if he wants it. And if he chooses not to take the third pile, he can then put it down and he can draw a single card straight from the deck. So what this does is it kind of creates this dynamic where you are continually passing up piles. You potentially can see what some of those cards are in the piles. And it's like a risk-reward scenario where do you hold out for one really good card that you want, or do you take a pile with a couple okay cards, or do you risk doing a top deck and taking a single blind card? So I end up taking the Burning Hands pile just because it has Burning Hands and a Mortality in it. Burning Hands pretty good removal in limited, and Mortality is okay removal. So for 2 removal options, I felt that was worth taking that pile. That first pile, Kevin did pass up a Heat Ray, and I was tempted to take that last turn. It looks like he passed on it again, and at this point I think I do end up taking it, since I do already have the Burning Hands in hand, and now there is a Sir Percival and a Pendragon banner in that pile. So the value was pretty high on that one at that point, and I decided to act on that and take it. So I'm going to take a look at the first pile again and see what has refreshed there. There are 2 Earth sites there. They're decent. And at this point, I'm thinking of doing an Earth Fire deck just because I have the bears. And now looking at this pile, I'm definitely going to do an Earth Fire deck, just because I pulled 2 Lumbering Giants and a Joust. It's just insane value in that center pile that I just took. So 2 Lumbering Giants and a Brown Bear is going to round out my my minion curve at 4 so far. And then I have 2 red, 2 fire removal spells. So I'm feeling pretty good about my deck right now. It seems to be shaping up. This pile, again, the Verdant Knight doesn't really work with my intended deck strategy. Astral Alcazar doesn't really do that much for you in a limited format. Those 2 Earth sites are tempting, but not enough to take it on their own. This pile I think I do take just to have the common sense and also to have the Grain Sparrow in element, just if I need some additional minions to fill out. I'm not sure if I have a ton of targets for the common sense at this point. I guess at least the Lumbering Giants or the Brown Bears at this point. So we got a brand new card here on this pile, and that's going to be an immediate no for Extinguish with what I have going right now. Troll Bridge is pretty good. It's just not in an element that I'm using, and I don't know if I can splash for elements at this point. This pile, I mean, all of these cards are decent. I think I end up taking it just to get the Scorpion. I wanted something with lethal, just in case Kevin ended up drafting something larger that I had trouble dealing with, like an Amazon Warrior or a Fomorian Giant, something like that. So I wanted to be able to have a response to a larger powered minion. So we're going to hit refresh again. I'm kind of locked into my element choices right now. I don't think I can splash just because I'm at like 2 threshold for both fire and air for some of those picks. So I don't know if I want to really like splash for a 3rd color at this point. This pile just continues to have things out of element that I can't splash for really, and aren't really worth splashing for. Iron Man Talus I could take just because it's an artifact, but it's kind of a mid-range, you know, it's like a pretty unimpressive pick. Charge might be interesting, but I think I pass on that too, and then go for the top deck. And I draw a Reckless Squire, which is pretty good for what I'm trying to build here. Reckless Squire will give me a lance that I can play with. It has a charge option when it comes in. So there is some utility there, and I don't have that many 3-drop minions like for 3 mana at this point, so it helps fill out the mana curve. So again, still feeling pretty good about these picks so far. The fact that I've gotten so many fire cards up to this point has led me to believe that Kevin is not aggressively drafting for fire, at least for the fire element.
Is it worth it to get 5 or 6 cards?
Ice Lance is a decent card. Again, it's just if I was splashing for water, if I was in water, that would be a good get to take. Windmill, Again, if I was splashing in some way for air, that might be worth it. But I end up going for the top deck, which was a Vikings. Again, a very powerful card for the type of deck that I'm trying to build. Again, it hits my mana curve for my minions. It's a 4-power body with a very relevant ability in the limited format. The minion curve right now is like I have 4 4-power minions. So at this point, I catch that Kevin has been looking at the piles and then backpedaling to make his choice, which is technically not allowed. You have to make your decision on whether or not you're going to keep the pile when you look at it, and if you're not, you put it back down and you can't go back to it. It was an honest mistake. We don't really do a lot of Winston drafting, so he wasn't super familiar with the rules. Right now, there's just so much stuff in this pile. I'm trying to determine if it's even worth grabbing. I think I end up taking it just for the red-breasted robin, because I wanted something in the deck to be able to deal with stealth, or to sneak in an extra point of damage if it lands on the avatar site, or to maybe deal with something that is difficult to deal with, like a Sly Fox in this format. So we're going to refresh the piles again and see what we get. So Keening Banshee and just the rock. I wouldn't mind getting a rock in my card pool at this point, just because in format there's always the chance that your opponent's going to pull a ring, or they're going to pull some sword and shields, and it's important to be able to have a way to deal with that, just because there are 2 packs of beta in this pool, but the chances of getting a disenchant or a dispel are still pretty low in 2 packs. Beta is a large set. It's 403 cards, and with 10 commons per pack, your odds of hitting one of those go down drastically. So that rock is tempting me again. And now there's a red cap power, so I think for sure I take this pile, just because that new card has really sweetened the deal. And then I get a rock, and then I get just a rock to add a little bit of utility and protection in my deck build. So we're getting down close to the end of the pile here. Let's see what I pull here. There's another Field Laborers, another Vikings. I think I take this. I already pulled the Field Laborers before, so it allows me to ramp faster into the Vikings. And with 2 Vikings in the deck, there is a higher chance that I'm able to hit that and be able to get it out into play.
So you know what somebody else is going to play. Yeah. To an extent. I'm going to say something after.
So we're gonna take a look at the piles again and see what we got. Degradation is a decent card in limited, but again, it's not in an element that I'm in right now. Unravel could be useful to again deal with some difficult artifacts, but again, like I already have just a rock. I ended up taking that pile. There was a lot of stuff in there that could potentially be decent in my deck. I saw another sandworm, which is another 4-power minion, which is pretty strong. Like I'm curving out, like I'm really like top heavy there in those mid-range bodies now. And I believe there's also a river of flame in that pile too. So I don't know how many spells I pulled that River of Flame could actually cast. I think it might just be the Heat Ray, but being able to advantageously cast a heat ray might be an interesting option in the game. I take that pile specifically for the ruffian. I know that I have a lot of 4-body minions, and I'm a little nervous that the curve on my like 3 mana and 3 power bodies is lagging behind a little bit. And this last choice is just a gift. I get a Shadow Strike, I get a Kettletop Leprechaun, both very good cards, and will help support the deck that I'm trying to build. So this is a picture of the deck list that I ultimately built from this draft. The minion curve, the mana curve looks pretty good. I was worried about the 3-drops, not having enough of them, and it turns out that I actually did draw quite a few. The deck has a lot of solid bodies. I count 6 4-power minions, which is pretty good. And it has a couple removal spells. It has that Shatter Strike, which can potentially be very key in your fights. I didn't get any sights other than the River of Flame, but just in general, I'm pretty happy with how this deck like looks and how it's curving out. A lot of times in limited games, you're gonna go a little bit longer in turns, and it is very helpful if you have more like 4 power bodies on the table. And then this is a picture of the deck that Kevin built. As you can see on the right side, he pulled a ring from the draft. He was very excited about that because he didn't have a ring in his collection yet. The ring is very strong, just in general, very strong in constructed, very strong and limited if you pull it and you manage to get it out. Again, that was one of the things I was worried about when I was debating whether or not to take just a rock or unravel. That's one of those like problematic bombs in the game that can become a runaway train if you let it and you don't have an answer to. The rest of his deck, it looks like he was pretty aggressive in drafting air. So looks like he prioritized getting like things like grapple shots and blinks. Got a Gyre Hippogriff, an Arc Lightning. So some decent cards there. The concern is that it doesn't look like he got a ton of bodies to fill out his curve. And in a limited format, you really need a good amount of minions to be able to play out on curve to establish a board presence and be able to do work and make equitable trades. He's running all 4 elements, and I don't think that is a choice. I think that was a necessity based on what he was drafting. He's running a Sea Serpent, which is not a great choice in format if you're not heavy into water. But again, like I think that's his only 4-power minion. He managed to snag a Violamp, which is a good card, but again, it's just there's not a lot going on at the top range of his deck, which is perhaps a little bit problematic. So we did end up playing one game with our draft decks, and I took a video of that, so I'll go ahead and get that posted up soon.